Welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings here. Still in Inmendham, but won't be for too long. 2 more months and I'll be gone. Anyway, so in the moving process, I ruined my back a few days ago and still can't stand upright, and it's just taking a while to work out. So anyway, very annoying. It just adds to the charm of the whole adventure and such. So anyway, enough of that. I did work on a little bit of programming stuff a little bit. I found this cube thing and worked on it a little bit, fixed it, and so I think I'll do some cubes of different kinds. Though I couldn't really find any, computers. I have a ton of old hard drives and crap, and I have pictures, but I can't find them. Anyway, so there's the only stuff I could find. So we have to do, and it won't, I won't move on to other things, hopefully. So, anyway, so I might play some clips from a movie called The Sunset Limited. It's on YouTube, pieces of it anyway. Couldn't find the whole movie, unless you pay for it and all that crap. But anyway, it's a simple, just two people talking, and makes for an interesting movie because it has to be kind of well written. Just going through the contrast between the happy imbecile and the tormented intellectual as kind of a gross way of describing the circumstance, but obviously that's kind of a oversimplification. But in some respects, it is sort of true. Knowledge and intelligence will inform you of risk. That's just a fact. The more you know about a circumstance, the more you know about, the more you know about cars, you can know about all the ways they can catch fire. All the ways something can go wrong. That knowledge is, it can be a burden. It can get in your way. So I've sort of described this before. I mean, you can't be paying attention to the knives, how hard the cement is when you're on the tightrope. You have to stay focused, and undistracted. And that's sort of what's required to play life is, you have to be conditionally knowledgeable. You can't allow your knowledge to give you, with your imagination, to allow you to, know too much, know how you're doomed or screwed or futile, that, it's all going to mean nothing in the end, all that kind of stuff. So you have to have some mechanism to prevent yourself from being consumed by the horror. So that's another way to put it. Which reminds me of another, Apocalypse Now, great little scenes in that movie. So I was thinking about that kind of stuff, just the idea of making a production of some kind, some way of packaging philosophy in a, and like I said, the Sunset Limited is a very good little package. It gets too poetic in places. It's a little too scripted, not direct enough maybe. Although pretty direct. But good, but some of that's you probably have to do. So I was even thinking of little scenes. You could do a bunch of 1-2 minute long segments of, sort of what we attempted some of that in Vlogadome, but just to, and certainly Old Fans Movie bigger segments, but I just mean the idea is the same. But then you're almost back to images, and those obviously don't work on people. There's plenty of horrible images that don't give people any pause in terms of having confidence that their procreation experiments are going to all work out fine. It'll all be for the best somehow. Just idiotic. So that relates to idiotic Pyrrho. And I watched a Thou Art That video that was just absolute mush about the nature of existence, and it's just it's just religious babble. And Pyrrho had left a comment about asking Matt to review his book, if he ever finishes it, his Illusions Exist book. And just that title just rolls in my head in such a negative way, because you could just easily say delusions exist, and they do. People's lies become their reality. They're distortions and misrepresentations of the truth. And I mean, it's just so pervasive everywhere, where we have these, the complete distortions of perspective. I've brought up the 9/11 victims before because, they were given hundreds of billions of dollars. I mean, just insane amount of money to these victims. These 2,000 families, 2,000, something like that. Something less than that. But anyway. And, every day people get wiped out in just as horrible a manner by just as useless an act. A drunk driver, work accidents, accidents on the highway. And nobody cares. Nobody takes care of their families. Nobody does any of this crap. Those victims don't mean anything. And it's just stupid. You just say there's no... how does it matter how you're ruined? It's just the fact that you're ruined should be the only thing that concerns our civilization, is ruin. The cause of the ruin. How does that make your ruin any different? It's like, if you got cancer, does it matter how you got it? It's stupid. And that's what illusions get you. That's what delusions get you, is a civilization that has, insanely stupid policies and priorities, places importance on things that just aren't important. And that's the dilemma, is to get the human race over its illusions, to recognize that it can't keep lying about real causes, real damage. So it's like, the cigarette thing is a personal thing for me, just because it's just very irritating that it was just a way of collecting revenue from a minority. It was just, let's exploit the nicotiners, let's have an N-word, for the nicotiners, and we'll just, take advantage, and we'll pretend that the other vices that are more popular are somehow less destructive or something, when they're clearly not. I mean, alcohol, ravages all kinds of families, kills kids, it kills all kinds of things. Cigarette smokers pretty much just knock a few elderly years off their life. Alcoholism ruins people in their, like I said, it kills kids, it kills young people. The car accidents for drunk kids is, it's probably the number one way teenagers die. There's no panic, no hysteria, no a word, no need to do anything to fix it, no need to sit there and say, let's tax it out of usability for the poor. So again, just hypocrisy, more illusions about how things actually function, more just complete bullshit. Just nonsense notions of what's really happening on planet Earth. This is like, you could just pick every subject and just find a ton of people who are just living in this, the truthers with their conspiracy theories and their, just scapegoating, like the world's problems are created by the whatever Bilgenbergers or something, when, obviously it's more complex than that. It's more related to things they probably endorse, which is legacy wealth in general. That the whole problem is human beings are just greedy by nature, and we have to have a sensible civilization has some mechanism to put limits on that selfishness. That's the logical thing you got to do. So then you can get into all these other subjects where these people and their illusions of how, there's going to be some, everything's always the same. So immigration in the 1800s is the same as immigration in the early 1900s is the same as immigration in the 2000s, and it's just stupid. More illusions at work, more just made up notions of the world you live in, and the consequences of what you endorse and what you don't punish, what kind of rewards and punishments you create in a society, and what kind of food you feed them as information. And, now we just have the corporations own all the media. It's all just it's all to sell product, and to a niche of people. So you just figure out your demographic and you tailor your crap to them and tell them what they want to hear. So no one gets educated because they get somebody just keeps telling them they don't need to be educated. They already have the right answer when they have wrong answers. So it's it's really a difficult task to go through all the mechanisms and all the little subtle mistakes that have been made. And frankly, I see this in the physics conversations. These people just cling to what they've held. They resist having to change, and I understand that resistance, but I don't really understand it when it comes to knowledge that really shouldn't scare them or cause them any grief. And it seems the knowledge that like you're a robot. I could say you're a robot. I mean, most people should say, the first time I actually thought about it, it was like, oh, yeah, so I can't really take credit for anything. That kind of sucks. That none of it was really my doing. I'm just been reflexively reacting throughout my whole life by a mechanism of cause and effect that there's no me that controls any of it. They're just knee jerks, and the knee was going to jerk. I mean, I could go back in time, and if I had the same knowledge, I'd make the same mistakes. They weren't mistakes at the time I was making them. In terms of I didn't know they were mistakes. I didn't have the reflexes to realize I was deluded or possessed by a foolish illusion. And but anyway, the first time I thought about it, it's a little bit deflating, but that's it. I mean, it's not catastrophic to recognize. And then to recognize that all the people you see in the world have been programmed to be the assholes that they are. They weren't born an asshole. They were made into them. And they were made that way by the system we're not fighting hard enough to fix, or we're not fighting effectively enough to fix, because obviously the system does create assholes. Reckless, careless, thoughtless, way too aggressive, way too a total lack of any notion of risk aversion and the crisis of waste, and how important it is not to be a waster. Nobody's taught that. I mean, my parents were rather intelligent, and they would give you moral guidance in saying it's wrong or it's bad, but there really was no understanding of why it's bad, in the sense of recognizing that these are fatal errors in your destiny, and that you will ruin your capacity to get the most out of your existence, and you're destined to a kind of failure with this kind of sloppy attitude that your obligation really is to live a good life. You really just don't have a right to live sloppy or reckless and selfish. And since everybody's doing it, everybody thinks it's okay to do it. That's certainly how you're raised as a kid. There's just not enough notion of responsibility to the other feeling creatures on Earth, or your fellow man, or all of that stuff. It's all on a UNICEF box or something. It's not made real in any sense. It's a kind of a joke. They're starving people in China. It's just made into a joke. It doesn't mean anything. And it's, really important to recognize the real world we live in, and the real price being paid, and how expensive life is, and how dark and sad and tragic everyone's life will be. I mean, only the most nihilistic, disconnected, self-absorbed individual could go through a life and watch the people they care about harmed, and be unaffected, and not be changed and educated into an idea of that it's just not right. And that gets to the mechanism of evasion, and that so many of these people are just selling hope and a fantasy that it's going to somehow get better, or it's going to somehow work out, that somehow we can escape the nature of existence. And we can't. And they're just lying. And to people. They're selling something that's just fake. It's a candy. It's not real food. It's certainly not intelligent. And it's not respectful of the pain that will be the waste of their silly justifications for making more that doesn't need to exist. No rational purpose will be served in making more of it, redoing the same hardships, and reliving the Shakespeare plays over and over and over again. It's not a good idea. They don't have happy endings. So that's sort of the mindset. It's just that recognizing that that's all that people live for, is this evasion. And then, and some of it I can see myself doing. You see yourself evade thoughts and that are unpleasant. like, I was thinking of doing one of these cube things with the cats that I have known, you know, and but yeah, just looking at the pictures was depressing and morbid, and I evaded it because it slows you down. It kills incentives. It doesn't keep you in the game. It keeps you mindful, and you're looking for the next danger. What else is life going to dump? How's it going to dump? And it has to dump. We all have to be ground into mud, bloody goo somehow. We all have to transition from thinking we have some control and we have some hope, and you don't. You're not going to win. The game will consume you, and likely not pleasantly. And that's all there's going to be. Is the end story is going to be placed on top of the existence. And I've sort of pointed this out. That's the problem with the cats, is that the ending is the most recent memories, and they're obviously sometimes the most powerful, and you end up stuck with that image, and it becomes hard to imagine the many years, decades even, where that wasn't the reality, where it wasn't degraded or hurt or harmed, where it wasn't about sad. It was about comfortable and happy-ish and pleasant. And all that sort of gets overwhelmed, overshadowed by the greater gravity of the sad ending. So anyway, I think I'll have a vape, and so I can pause to do that. So that's what I'll do. I should be back. Sorry, I'm really tired. Anyway, happens. It's probably going to be a lot of that in the future for a little while, or some other kind of yes, whatever. Just the transition is not good. Change, ruin. I'm sort of part of my life is dying. It's another grief to get over, another separation. It's just, just nothing good to say about it. I wouldn't wish it on a living thing, a feeling thing. So, so maybe we'll go to the Sunset Limited thing, and maybe we'll play some of it or not. We'll see. See. So anyway, so as a way of dramatizing. So again, people talk about writing, and writing's good, but if you read the script, it might not say as much as, well, I don't know, I should try that. Maybe it would. I guess I'm just not the creative writer type. I'm not the creative video type. Part of me says you should just have to be able to articulate it in reasonable sentences, and other people will get the point. Like, just point out how, you aren't living all these other lives. The stuff never has happened to you. You haven't died yet. So, how can you know that dying is okay if you haven't done it? How can you know that any grief that you might encounter in your existence that somehow your existence is still a for-profit enterprise, no matter what happens. No matter, watching someone you love, all that kind of stuff, wife or something, die of cancer or whatever. How do you know it's okay if you haven't done any of this shit? And then certainly you can appreciate that people should be able to understand. You should be able to just explain that everybody has these different sensibilities, and what you find comforting, they could find totally obnoxious, and you could understand that what makes you sick might not make them sick, and vice versa. So you have to have some kind of capacity to realize that you can't pretend that it's okay for somebody else. That you can say, I know it's okay. You're winning, even though they're losing. You can just keep saying that it's all for profit, that all these lives are profitable somehow. That they're winning. That the balance sheet is, in the black. And I think that's just crazy talk, because I think people know they wouldn't live those lives if they were given the choice. The no risk choice versus the horror. Subjecting yourself to extreme forms of torment and anguish, discomfort, however you want to describe pain. They wouldn't do it. They know they wouldn't do it. So why are they pretending it's all right? Why are they saying it's all right? Why are they endorsing a system that will subject people without consent, to be subjected to the risk? So there is a little taste of that point in this movie. I've sort of talked about how you don't, killing yourself is, sometimes it's necessary, but I just mean the point is it doesn't free consciousness. You'll be dragged back, essentially. The idea of awareness doesn't have to live in your brain. It lives in all of the brains. All the brains are having the same I'm here experience. And in a sense, you'll just become the next I'm here. You'll just wake up like you did in your life. You'll just wake up somewhere saying I'm alive and start trying to figure out how to live. You won't have the knowledge you have. You won't have any of that stuff, but you'll be alive and feeling and reflexively being programmed by an environment and the same bullshit, and you're going to live a life that might be worse than the one you're already revolted by, and certainly you might live a life that you think is humiliating, in the sense that you'll be a religious kook. You'll be deprived of knowledge that you have now, and just feel so bad that you're this new version of you is going to end up being retarded, and it's not going to have any power to escape or to prevent, and it's just going to be trapped in ignorant illusions. And that's a dismal prospect, that we're just going to keep being ground up over and over and over again, as it doesn't stop. My nightmare doesn't stop till you stop dreaming. It's just a fact. And so that's something people should be able to understand, that you can't play this game or endorse this game without endorsing subjecting the I don't want to do it forcing them in the trunk, forcing them, dragging them behind the car, the party wagon. And that's the price for your joyride, is you've got them, you're dragging them on the asphalt to have your fun. It's just fact. It's truth. And they take no account for it. They say because they want to play, they can force you to be subjected to torture over and over and over and over and over again, as long as it can be played out. So for millions of years, the living things on Earth, I mean, I guess these people would say, oh yeah, it was worth it. Hundreds of millions of years of organisms just spending their whole day trying to ruin another organism's day. And they're not, obviously they're not trying to do that. They're just trying to keep themselves alive. But clearly the end result is all this harm, horrible brutality, really nasty deaths, guts pulled out and stuff, all kinds of horrible stuff. Horrible, just absolutely horrible. The horrible things that have happened to people, just horrible. And it keeps going on and on. The bones keep getting crushed and broken. This just keeps going on. And it's a terrible, insidious system. Feeling creatures killing feeling creatures. It's stupid. The waste is obscenely bad, weighty, and obvious. And yet people just keep pretending with their little illusions that somehow there's some circle of fun here that makes it all okay. No. This is such a lie. It's such a disrespect to the price paid. So, that's the point, is that nothing's going to stop it. There's not some moral police. There's not some logic police. We're the only thing that can do it. We're the only thing that can do the rational calculation and have the integrity to say no. It's got to stop. Reasonable people have to do this. They have to apply their capacity to reason, recognize the price is obviously too high, way too many victims made, and stop doing it. Stop it. It can't be justified. There's not enough gain to justify the pain. It's quite obvious. You wouldn't live the life. You wouldn't want a life where you had 15 children and you watched 13 of them die. You wouldn't want that life. You wouldn't choose it. So quit pretending that there's some other thing that we're built to do except that. We're built to struggle, to fight, to be exhausted doing it, to just stay in the game, because it's a gladiator war. You can't just sit down and say, "Yeah, I'm going to take 5 minutes off." There's no time off. There's no lower your guard. There's none of that, or you're going to get eaten. You're going to get consumed by the game. So we're built to fight. And what we have to understand is what we're supposed to be fighting for is that there's a better source of understanding than your stomach or your hormones about what you're supposed to care about, what's rational to care about. And that's where we have this intelligence that can tell us what the right answers are. And even though we don't like them, they're going to ruin our little movie. It's the truth. And it's important. There's anything more important than So again, I guess it's another reason why this illusions exist kind of notion is just so irritating, because it's like spitting on the truth. They exist as waste. They exist as error code. Illusions are errors in perception. They're just delusions. Nothing good will come of them. And it's starkly clear how important it is when it comes to recognizing what a rational price to pay is for something. And when, again, you waste resources in insane ways, like giving, $1 billion to one family who's ruined, while you don't do anything for, if you spent that money on prevention, you'd be so much better off. You'd prevent, thousands of future victims instead of comforting one victim now. And I've sort of made these arguments about that we're just a culture of band-aid solutions, and this idea that prevention is the thing that's really worth something, and band-aids aren't worth anything. That's just conceding you're not going to be smart. You're going to play a bad game. And in the end, you're going to cause more harm by those illusionary decisions based on your delusions of function and purpose. Got to have a higher standard. Right. Time for another break. Alright, back again. So I guess we'll just play some of this. Just get you thinking about different movies and different stories. And so this story is basically, this guy tries to kill himself, and this the other guy saves him. And so they end up having this conversation, and different classes, and religious guy versus atheist kind of thing. Lots of counter positions, and so the characters are interesting enough, and so it's a nice little story, and there's stories in the story, which makes it a watchable story. But there's little places like when they're doing this conversation about the Bible that I didn't think were very genuine or real. Just in terms of the Bible's a piece of crap as literature. I mean, it just doesn't read very well. It doesn't. It's shit. It's a crappy story. It's a crappy book. It's all disconnected and doesn't make any sense. You barely, it contradicts itself all over the place. It just terrible as a read. Doesn't keep you wanting for the next phrase. Anyway, and so I just think it was kind of silly that the intellectual who's read a lot of books hasn't read the Bible, and it just seems like he would already have enough knowledge of what's in it, that it's just a silly story about a nice communist fellow, but doesn't really have any great underlying. There's no knowledge of good and evil. There's no knowledge of the basic psychology of the human animal. There's no insights into the psychology that creates the bad behavior. There's no, it's just this idea of, it's almost silly. Let's punish them. That'll sure teach the babies a lesson. I don't think so. It doesn't really teach the perpetrators. The real perpetrators are the parents, right? They're the real criminals here. They're the ones who take on the project of making a consciousness, making a robot, and they allow it to go wrong. It's the school system did it. oh, it's the streets, it's this. They're always making excuses and scapegoating their responsibility, their grotesque failures to create decent human beings, generous, yeah. I don't, not paranoid, not and it's in our culture. It's the parents' fault all over the place. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to program a robot. They know nothing about what needs to happen to give a human being knowledge and character, and they certainly haven't lived a life of it. That's why they have a kid in the first place, is they're reckless douchebags. So they're the real perpetrators. Where's the punishment in the Bible for the parents? Instead, they're supposed to be respected as if they have some insight when they obviously failed to get to understand the world, and the world's ugliness is a reflection of their own ugliness. But anyway, so I thought that was underdone. I thought it was poorly, because it should be a clear statement there that this rubbish fantasy of religion is useless mush. It just does. It has nothing to say about the real harm on the planet, in the sense that it doesn't even acknowledge the existence of all the other sentient organisms on this planet. I mean, there's no conversations about even pets. They're just tools. They're just things you own. They're just, it doesn't even get one of the most basic realities here, is that this idea of being a mammal, and having the capacity to be harmed, to have suffering imposed, and where we have knowledge now that you just can't use this ignorant excuse that I didn't know it had a brain. I didn't know that brains, their whole purpose is to create this mechanism of awareness and self-interest. That's the whole reason why the other organisms have it. It's for the same reason you do. Is so they're invested in a life, their life. So they'll play the game. And they have this huge disadvantage of being ignorant and retarded in a sense. And you're abusing that, using that to mistreat them. Where's that ethic? It's absent. I'm just saying that the book is so vacant of any kind of rational conversation about what role we should be playing here. That somehow if you seek knowledge, then somehow you're seeking to be a god. No, you're just seeking to understand your obligations, to understand the consequences of your actions. That's a sin. Anyway, there's so much you could just get into in terms of how much harm religion does to the human knowledge base. It's just, you talk about illusions, delusions, nonsense. It's just a book of bullshit. So anyway, I thought that part was underdone. So this is the closing scene, where I don't think they could avoid picking a side in the movie, and obviously the side that won is the dark side. Darth Vader won here pretty decisively in this closing segment, and clearly I think he should. I guess I just think I would have had the victory more artful and not so direct, but whatever. The artistic taste.
Here is my news, Reverend. I long for the darkness. I pray for death, real death. And if I thought that in death I would meet the people I knew in life, I don't know what I would do. That would be the ultimate horror, the ultimate nightmare. If I thought I was going to meet my mother again and start all of that all over, only this time without the prospect of death to look forward to, that would be the final nightmare. Kafka on wheels.
Well, obviously, context is the whole problem there. just this whole idea that people think they're going to go to heaven and continue their life. And it seems pretty clear that at least some of the philosophers that wrote the Bible were smart enough to figure out, oh, that really isn't going to work, is it? Because then people have more than one wife. There's going to be all kinds of, the first husband died and now the second husband, and what are you going to do with that? And, all kinds of problems are going to be created. So, they create this idea that now you're not going to have any memory of anything. And so again, it's this, who would want that to happen to themselves? Who would want to lose knowledge of their first love or something like that? I mean, why would they? It seems not only on just a subjective emotional level, something so harsh to any romantic notions of meaning in those passionate feelings, like they don't mean anything, that you would lose the memory of the person because it's going to be tainted by their death or tainted by some other fact, tainted by a betrayal, tainted by something. And that's the context. So yeah, I would have preferred, I suppose, that they didn't say this mother thing, just because it gets into all kinds of psychology issues. So, it's just the idea that any community with the people of your history can't have the same context it had when you lived with them, because now you have the context of their death. You have the context of them going senile or something. Something, that, I mean, that's another ironic statement. I mean, would people go to this heaven as what person? Would they have knowledge that, oh, I went senile? I was eating my own poo. I was doing all kinds of embarrassing stuff. Would they have to go to heaven with memories of those things in the context of understanding them? Like, do you go to heaven before, does the person you were before you went senile go to heaven, or does the senile person go to heaven? Does the person in a coma go to heaven in a coma? I mean, it really can't make any sense. So again, that's why they should have disposed of all conversation about this kind of woo with some just dramatic debunk of any notions that we have anything other than the crap here, and that there is nothing else. There's no point in talking about it even, because to talk about it is to start creating imaginations about worlds that just don't exist. You can't undo the past, and all you can do is learn from it. And that's the sadness of this, is if there was a heaven where people who have lived and died, people have gone through losing their minds, having all kinds of humiliating things and bad things and painful things and torments, they would have so much more perspective. And you wouldn't have to have these conversations, because nobody would be voting for, let's just keep playing a bad game. It's not good enough. Unless you can figure out some way to make this happen without the high price paid, which again is another conversation you can have about the impracticality. Because frankly, all of our comfort is made out of our discomfort.
Damn.
A point that was made in the movie in a couple of places.
You don't want to see your own mama? No, I don't. I want the dead to be dead. Forever. I want to be one of them.
So I don't know what that actually says. That doesn't say anything to me. I want the dead to be dead forever. part of me loves that there's a certain satisfaction in buildings that last forever. The David, some sort of piece of art, some sort of thing. So it's not like I want all humans have been rubbish. No, all humans haven't been. So some humans were great humans. It'd be nice if they did live forever, because they were playing a good game, trying to prevent the harm.
Be one of them. You can't be one of the dead, because that which has no existence can have no community. No community. My heart warms just thinking about it. Blackness, aloneness, silence.
So again, that's, almost a little bit too pessimistic in the sense that there is the splendor in the grass. There is parts of life that are seem quite amazingly beautiful. But again, it's only because it's like the perfect drink of water after the 20-mile hike across the desert. It's only because of that. It's only because of the deprivation, the loneliness, the very things, the absence of a touch or a feel or all that kind of, the deprivation is what makes it sweet. And so clearly you can know that you'll pay too much for the little moments in the grass. And so that statement needs to be made, and that's probably what's intended by that statement. But it implies just more, it sounds just pessimistic, looking at the dark side, rather than recognizing that although this passion engine that runs in us, this ambition, this we are the champions kind of song is powerful. It is an illusion, and it will ruin you if you're playing that in your head. Because you will fail. And you'll just fail harder.
And all of it only a heartbeat away.
So again, that's the sad, tragic, horrible part of this. You will not have the peace. It won't happen. As long as they keep dragging you back, you're not gonna win. You're not gonna get out of this. The meat grinder still got the threads. It's gonna pull you back in. They're gonna keep pulling you back in to get reground again and again and again and again. And if your condition isn't worse than the average human condition, you're better off staying than leaving.
I don't regard my state of mind as some pessimistic view of the world. I regard it as the world itself. Evolution cannot avoid bringing intelligent life ultimately to an awareness of one thing and one thing above all else.
So I thought this was a little bit bad timing on their part. I mean, they want to make it sound like this is the hood, and so they have all kinds of human drama going on in the background to make sure that we know this guy's poor and he's living in the shithole and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it sort of ruined a very good little speech,
Thing is futility.
If I'm understanding you right, you saying everybody that just ain't eat up with the dumbass ought to be suicidal?
Yeah, so he's saying that eat up with the dumbass means, so if you have any intelligence at all, you should have a hard time eating this garbage. I mean, you should be able to see the maggots in this food, and it should bother you. You don't need much intelligence to be able to know something simple like nobody signed up for this. There was no EPA environmental impact statement written. Nobody had to, didn't have to go to some company to test it whether it catches fire. This isn't an approved appliance. Okay, we're not an approved appliance. The appliance is dysfunctional. The game of life is cannibalism. It's cannibalism. We cannibalize each other. We enslave each other. We deprivate each other. We exploit each other. I mean, it's just so bad. It's not a suitable game. Nothing but idiots could do this on purpose. Nothing but an idiot would push more children onto these idiotic planks over this pit of lava and dog dew.
You ain't shitting me?
No, I am not shitting you. If people can see the world for what it truly is, see their lives for what they truly are without...
Yes, without delusions, without stupid illusions of function and purpose and, I've used this analogy so many times, the whole Olympic gold medal lie, which just has to do with a bunch of ruin, a bunch of people who wasted their potential, trying to be something stupid, the best at throwing little ball through hoop, or it's these silly games, and think how many lives are just wasted trying to be in a tiny select little group of winners, and all the rest are also rans. 1 million also rans for one little gold medal satisfaction victory. Oh, I'm the best in the world. La, la, la. Oh, a little bit of satisfaction, and all of that carnage, just complete crippling. I mean, yes, kids are actually killed, they're actually paralyzed, and then lives are just ruined. Alcoholism, drug abuse, steroids, cancer, all kinds of shit. For what? For what? And that is the metaphor. That is if you have any little bit of intelligence, you should be able to say, yes, of course that doesn't make sense. That's fucking stupid. Nobody should say that's okay. Let's do some more of that. That's a winning strategy. Let's make more gold medals. It's really good for us.
Or illusion. I don't believe they could offer the first reason why they should not elect to die as soon as possible. I don't believe...
Well, there are reasons. I mean, testicles, that's a reason. You're going to be compelled to finish. You're going to be compelled to win. You're going to be competitive. And dying is also doesn't seem like it's going to be any fun at all. So as much as as long as you get a victory in the end. But it is like going to the dentist or something, it's probably, like a really bad dentist. It's like going to a dentist that doesn't have a dentist license or something. It's just something to be avoided if you can, because there isn't any easy way out. There's psychological barriers to your self-destruction. You don't like envisioning yourself as, smashed into a train, or bouncing on the sidewalk or whatever, the crushing, bloody, yuck. It's not pleasant to think of. So there is some apprehension. But clearly if we did make it, just a snap your fingers adventure, just snap your fingers, count down from 10, and you only get to 5, and you're done. If we made it as easy as it should be, and as it can be, then this would be a real conversation. Because, smart people would have to say, well, maybe I should find a moment when, maybe 10 minutes after sex, where you feel detached enough to say, yeah, it's time to let this go. I'm just playing with a piece of dynamite, and yeah, it's got nice hooters and shit, but it's dynamite. The longer I stay, the more I'm just inviting the disaster. And that is the truth. And any smart person should know it. And it really is just about the entanglements of your life. I mean, many people, they can't really choose to die because they do have commitments to other people. There's people dependent on them. They're going to be hurt. They're going to have their life degraded because they're dependent. They've become entangled, and it's going to be harsh. When you go to try to cut that, you're going to hit some flesh. It's just not hair anymore. It's real skin that's going to get torn off.
Can you understand that? Look around you, man. Can't you see? The clamor and din of those in torment has to be the sound most pleasing to his ear.
Yes, the idea of a God who would subject us to this test, or whatever the hell it is. You don't even know what it is. What, are you testing me? Is that what this is, a test? I pass or fail, and fail means I get tortured forever. And if I win, what do I get? Castrated. Why am I doing this again? It's obviously a God would have to be insane. And it's so right in our face. I mean, here he is creating these other sensitive creatures, like I said, and he allows them to tear each other's flesh off and consume them in such an overt way, as if this is supposed to give us, example of how we're supposed to live? He doesn't give us examples in the nature that shows us how the winning strategy. The only winning strategy seems to be, kill or be killed, and in that order,
And I loathe these discussions. The argument of the village atheist whose single passion is to revile endlessly that which he denies the existence of in the first place.
But it's really important. So again, this, yes, I loathe the conversation if that's all it had to it, is this idea of, conversion for no purpose. But the purpose is because there's real torture in the balance. These assholes are the perpetrators. They're not benign. They're not some what do you call it in a war when some nation hasn't committed to anything? They're not on no side. They're clearly on the perpetrator side.
Fellowship is a fellowship of pain and nothing more. And if that pain were collective instead of merely reiterative, the sheer weight of it would drag the world from the walls of the universe and send it
So again, this is very dramatic, but a little too poetic, right? This isn't a very natural kind of conversation. But the point is, if we had the memory, if you had the memory, of all the people who had surgery with no anesthesia, and then you had all the memory of the cavemen, living to be, 24 years old, and very old men at that age already, scarred and broken, and if you had the collective memory, it would be a, this dramatic weight. It would be the black hole, the mega black hole of gravity. It would be, it would give you such certain knowledge that, this isn't a proper game. Nobody should have to play this bad a game. That's just stupid. give us a better game, or there's just nothing. There's no playing.
And burning down through whatever night it might yet be capable of engendering until it was not even ash. And brotherhood, justice, eternal life. Good God, man. Show me a religion that prepares one for nothingness, for death.
Yes, well, being prepared for nothing is not that big a deal, right, frankly. Again, so, you know, I don't know how effective this argument is. Just pointing out that the religion is just lying and disguising the weight of the horror. You know, just pretending you can just whitewash over it. You can just keep painting the white over the blood. The blood keeps pouring down, you just keep painting white over it. It's just crap. But yeah, I don't think there's any deep philosophical problem with recognizing a harmless state versus something that's going to hurt you. So, I don't think that's a philosophically challenging thing to explain. As much as you would say, well, it's tough to say, just because obviously we're never ready to quit. We're never ready to die. I mean, people only want to die because they're being tormented. So if they are in a neutral state, they want to cling to it. They want to hold on to it. Yeah.
It's a church I might enter. Yours prepares one only for more life, for dreams, illusions, lies. Banish the fear of death from men's hearts, they wouldn't live a day.
Banish the fear of death. Yes, that's certainly part of it. But they certainly would live a day, but they would recognize that the redundancy. And again, if you still had the collective knowledge, or you had the knowledge of you wouldn't have to live very long to start seeing the pain of the separation and the pain of watching the things you care about suffer and die. And you wouldn't, there'd be a point, I mean, it certainly happened to me with animals, because I took care of animals, as a kid. People used to, I had a way with creatures. But people would bring me stuff that there was no way I could fix, birds with broken necks and stuff, and all I had to do was watch them die. I couldn't make them comfortable and watch them die. And you don't have to do that. Well, maybe you do. Maybe you have to do it 100 times, but there's a point where I can't do this anymore. I can't do it. It's I've had enough. It doesn't get easier. It gets harder. And I know that's psychology. Because for some people it does get easier. So I guess it just depends on your state of mind, again, whether you have some mechanism to say it doesn't matter. But as long as you think it matters, and it's like it matters more to me now than it did back then. I'm more disturbed now than then. Because I guess I know what it represents. And I know that it's going to just keep happening over and over again. And over again, and over again, and over again. All these bad stories are just going to keep getting written. As long as we let these reckless assholes have pens. They're just going to keep writing this bad story.
Who would want this nightmare, but for fear of the next? The shadow of the axe hangs over every joy, Every road ends in death. Every friendship, every love. Torment, loss, betrayal.
And for not to all be forgotten, every book will be burned. There's just, you can go walk through a graveyard. All those stories. No pages in the book. Nothing. People with lives, identity, meaning, passion. Nothing. This is a pointless marker to a book of empty pages. Just for what? To keep doing that? To keep forgetting? We do all this so we can forget we did it? No. Too stupid.
Pain, suffering, age, indignity, hideous, lingering illness.
Yeah. And this is all stuff, that these reckless reproducers, they just think they have this glib attitude that doesn't mean anything. People die every day. It seems easy. Dying is easy. I don't know. I don't know why they think that. See, these are all just little things. I guess, certain things give you perspective. And as a kid, I got dragged into some, church-related activity. So, we went to the nursing home to, not to do anything religious, just to talk to the old people and try to make them happy. Like we were they take animals now, so they can pet the dog or cat or something and feel better. And we were essentially the same kind of fodder, go to the nursing home and try to make the forgotten feel less forgotten. It's an education, right? So that was those experiences, seeing not only some of the behind the scenes stuff, the naked old people, and bizarre shit, but just the conversations, with these people who had lives and nobody cares, and they're so hungry to tell their stories, and sure put the fear of aging into my head. Sure gave me some idea about this. Really is a horrible setup. I'm set up to do this. This is my destiny. I'm looking at my fucking destiny. And it just occurred to me, I didn't vote for this. Why is this the bargain? How do I, what do I do? How many times do I flip my light switch on and off in a row? Or what kind of voodoo can I do? What kind of not stepping on a crack thing can I do not to have that happen to me? And it was just that, those kind of moments that just say, I'm going to do the same thing to somebody else. I'm just going to subject them to doing this course shit, navigating a world that is unnavigatable, for which I have no power to say, I don't want to do that. I don't want that to happen to me, and it doesn't fucking matter. I can say it, but I got no fucking power. Why do I want it? Why would I subject somebody else to sit there in the same position I'm sitting in, saying, this isn't a fair game. What the hell do you mean? I have no power. I have no control. So yeah, I don't. People can't understand this. This is repugnant to talk about the fact that this is beneath our dignity. To keep being born into a dump of chaos and filth. Jesus.
And all of it with a single conclusion. for you, everyone, and everything you have ever chosen to care for. That is the true brotherhood, the true fellowship, and everybody is a member for life. You tell me that my brother is my salvation, well then, damn him. Damn him in every shape and guise and form. Do I see myself in it?
See, a little bit too much poetry there. See, the thing that's got to be damned are the procreators, the pregos, the reckless fucks who just keep playing a game they're totally ill-equipped to play. They can't play it well. They have no hope of controlling the experiment. They're just Frankenstein, delusional Dr. Frankensteins. Just keep reanimating the better off dead. Something that will not be loved by the world. Something that will not be, that will not have any control. And who will just be another victim of abuse and exploitation. I mean, it really was a very brilliant story, Frankenstein, in all the subtleties of the failure of it, the failure of the expectation that you can beat this system. You can't. You won't.
And what I see sickens me. You understand me? Can you understand me?
See, this was a little bit too predictable, cliche, a little bit too decisive a victory for too thin a speech, in a sense. But fine. I mean, they had to end the movie somewhere, so this is how they ended it.
I'm sorry. How long you felt like this? All my life? That true? It's worse than that. I don't see what could be worse than that.
Knowledge that I can't, I'm trapped forever. As long as they are allowed to keep dragging the victims behind their party wagon, I'm gonna keep fucking having my face ripped off by the asphalt. It's cause for some anger. But they're just dumb robots. They've been programmed by idiots. Like Piro.
Is really only for the good days. The truth is there's little of that left. The truth is that the forms I see have been slowly emptied out. They no longer have any content. There's shapes. Oh.
It just means his nuts have dried up, so now he's really fucked. But yeah, that's all there is, right? There's eventually it gets more and more difficult to find moments of illusion, moments of distance from the truth, the facts, to get caught up in the little splashy water or warm sunlight or soft kitty or whatever. It gets the amount of time you can keep the facts at bay and enjoy the rose without recognizing the petals are going to fall off. Without recognizing it's going to die. So I've used this, I've pointed this out before, but a key point for me in understanding evolution was when I saw, as a metaphor, a symbol, a tree, with blood dripping out of it. And once I had that image, then it was really easy for me to see it everywhere. Just to always be conscious of that icon. That's really what all this stuff is. It's a lie. It's, whatever bliss you can derive out of it is like riding in the buggy with the horses, with their teeth knocked out for the bits, and I mean, just the whole idea of the slaves. You're on a plantation and you're enjoying your tea, and you got your little pinky out, and everything's clean and nice and smells well, and and you see what made that life. Doesn't work. So it's pretty hard if you have a window, to drink your tea and not recognize the price. But if you do that, if you look out the window, because it's honest, then yeah, you're stuck. It's going to get the capacity to play the pantomime game, to get caught up in it. You're in your Barney the Dinosaur suit or something, and oh yeah, I'm having fun. It just ain't gonna be fun. The lies gets to be so obvious.
Train, a wall, a world, a man, a thing, dangling in senseless articulation in a howling void, no meaning to its life.
So I don't even know what that was. So see, that's where it gets a little bit too poetic. Where you're just like, what the hell? What are you talking about? That's I don't know what that was.
Words. Why would I seek out the company of such a thing?
So again, this it's fine to be dismissive of human interaction, because most of the interactions are false and fake and phony. How are you? I love you. When really, no. I hope I can get a favor out of you later. I hope I can exploit you in some way. I hope you're useful to me, so I'll maintain our friendship by sending you a Christmas card. I mean, all there's so much lie in our interactions with other people, and then the real genuine ones are just then tragic, because you are caring, and you are feeling their pain, and you're disturbed by it, and now you're invested in their welfare, and the odds are that all you need to do is know 5 people, and then you know that 3 out of 7 days out of your week are not going to be great days, because something's going to happen to some of those people that's going to bother you. You're just going to invite more tragedy into your life. And the amount of joy you can excrete from some other person, what are they going to do? Tell you a joke? What are they going to be able to give you to make it all right, or to make you all right, or to make you feel all right? It's pretty hard to do. It's pretty hard to spew words that make it all right. So yeah, it's you can't win. Again, you're just the fake relationships suck because they're fake, and the genuine ones suck because they're always going to be tragic.
Damn. So you see what it is you say?
Tried to say, still trying hard.
Who is your brother?
Who is my brother? Yes.
Is that the reason I'm here? And
who is your brother? I don't know whether that's in the Bible or not, but whatever. The little cliche statements sometimes just don't go anywhere either, and I don't know if that's a good summation of the the religious perspective in terms of perpetuating somebody's pain. I mean, clearly a lot of religious people, I think, don't have any genuine empathy. You could argue that this man has genuine empathy and that he's not acting out of some notion of you being a sinner, or some silly notion that we can. It's like the abortion argument. Most religious people, when they do charity, their charity is to sacrifice somebody else's valuables on the altar of their God. So they sacrifice other people's choices, not choices they want, choices other people want. They sacrifice somebody else's liberty. And it's just so dishonest. So you could argue that this religious man, who's clearly understands pain, could understand that, well, yeah, why would I, this is the conflict. That the personality doesn't fit this idea of just being obedient to some notion that God says so. It would have to be more genuine than that. You'd have to see some logic, some purpose, to be able to argue that somebody's making a mistake in rejecting this empty bag of shit, this, forever torment in hell or castration. Those are your choices here. Why would I choose either one?
No, that's why I'm here.
He asked me what I'm a professor of. I am a professor of darkness, the night in day's clothing. And now I wish you all the very best.
So that's another bit of poetry I didn't care for. There's no point in saying he's of darkness. He's just recognizing that the price paid for the frivolous crap is insanely stupid. It's an insane waste. To cut one kid's head off to, whatever, to heal the wound on another one.
But I must go.
Just stay a little while longer.
No more time. Goodbye.
So I thought this ending was just not as good as it could have been.
We can talk about something else, I swear.
I don't want to talk about something else.
Don't go out there, Professor. You know what's out there.
Oh, yes. Indeed I do. I know what's out there, and I know who is out there. I rush to nuzzle his bony cheek. No doubt he will be surprised to find himself so cherished. And as I cling to his neck, I will whisper in that dry and ancient ear, "Here I am. Here I am. Now, open the door. Don't do this."
So again, way too poetic. I mean, that was obviously just such a constructed pile of words that, I didn't care for that. And clearly he could just made the point that, you can give me no comfort. You can't fix any of this. So why are you trying? And that should have been the statement.
The kind man. I've heard you out. You've heard me. There's more to say. Your God must once have stood at a dawn of infinite possibilities, and that is what he's made of it. You tell me that I want God's love. I don't.
Yes, exactly. So something that is all knowledgeable and all powerful makes a shithole, and then throws a bunch of things he's already declared flawed and broken and useless and evil into it, to somehow reclamate something, by dunking their heads in some water and, saying some voodoo words, and it's all okay then. You can go ahead and kill some more of them. And, it's just silly. It's just so silly. It's such an insult to our intelligence that, humans are just so gullible, that they can't step past this silly fable. It's not even a good Three Bear story. I mean, Goldilocks has more interesting plot points than the God story. The plot is insensible. Live, die, forget. Live, die, forget. Live, die, forget. What the hell's that? Fuck that.
Perhaps I want forgiveness, but there's no one to ask it of. And there's no going back. There's no setting things right. There's only the hope of nothingness, and I cling to that hope. Now,
okay, so just more, not a very philosophically deep statement in the sense that you clinging to this hope of nothingness. There's no hope. So somebody smart there's no hope. You're not gonna achieve it. You're not gonna gain your immunity until the game players stop playing, until the party wagon breaks down or somebody breaks it down. Your foot is still in the noose.
Door, don't close this, please.
So again, just kind of overly dramatic. Please open the door. I mean, I just don't see that as a very natural event. And this whole lock overkill thing is a little bit ridiculous. Why would you have a padlock on the inside? You could just put a nail in it. I mean...
Thank you. Goodbye.
See, I just don't think this is a very good ending. It's thank you, goodbye. It's not saying enough. You should say something more about the fact that this conversation needs to happen between people that matter. And the fact that we're both powerless to do anything to make things right is the real tragedy here, is that we have the knowledge, we have no power.
Professor, I know you ain't mean them words. I'm gonna be there in the morning. I'm gonna be there, you hear? I'm gonna be there!
I just found this very ingenuine. See, this guy's had some character, lived through some shit, has some knowledge, the age thing. He's got some perspective. And this is almost, childishly propagandist, so it's a little bit, I think, out of character. He wouldn't be this much of a Boy Scout for God.
I'm gonna be there. You know he ain't mean them words. You know he didn't. You know he didn't.
Yeah, well, so again, this wouldn't... I don't think there would be this inability to recognize that this guy's just playing a head game. I need to believe, or I have to die. I have to believe in something. I have to fight for something. And to just recognize that, I understand. If somebody understands that, fighting to perpetuate gambling, that's all it is. Fighting to defend Las Vegas, from the aliens, isn't a very good fight. So anyway, I mean, the rest of this it just goes through more, a little bit of mopey stuff where he has a little conversation with God, but doesn't. Well, I might as well play it. We're already close enough.
I don't understand why you sitting me down there. I don't understand. If you wanted me to help him, then how come you didn't give me the words? You give them to him? What about me?
So again, I just more overly dramatic. Your lack of words are you have a lack of substance. You got a silly book with silly declarations of right and wrong and no understanding of why there needs to be wrong in the first place. Who invented that?
That's all right. That's all right. If you don't never speak again, you know I'll keep your word.
And he'll give you cancer and Alzheimer's in return. So, great bargain. Yeah, you're really winning, fella.
You know I will. You know I'm good for it.
Just another nameless, nothing life that will be disappear into forgetfulness. Everything learned, erased. More books to burn.
Okay. Is that okay?
So, like I said, underdone is an ending in my book. You know, especially with this kind of muted, whatever, religious soldier song in the background. Just kind of, taints the whole thing. So anyway, sorry, probably too long a video, but yeah. So at least I can get away with this kind of stuff now. So actually, I should be, maybe I can play some other movies and shit. Especially on my own channel, I can do anything I want, right? So I'll do whatever I want if I can find anything on my computers. Yeah, it's just all this switching over to Linux and switching this and I switched around so much stuff I can't find anything. I can't find where I put everything. And I just, I don't title anything very well, so it is a challenge. So what am I looking for? Just pause is what you want to do, and then save. Yeah, pause, then save. All right. So till the next time and such.